Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's the Friday news dump. We're going to cover all of the news. Every single story we're covering today is all the news you need to know. Don't worry about anything else, especially over the weekend. You can just go, to the club and party or whatever you do on the weekend because we are free from any troubles after today's show of Before Coffee. It's the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up the news 10 to 15 minutes before we've started and we haven't had any caffeine. But don't worry, you can get your warm cup of coffee and we can start reading out these headlines. Today on Before Coffee, the decline in greenhouse gas emissions in France continues, but it's slowing down. And the federal president Steinmeier dissolves the Bundestag in Germany.
Russia is getting the blame for shooting down the Azerbaijan Airlines flight.
Tanker from Russia's shadow fleet is suspected over Finland-Estonia link failure. And government risks crushing Scottish fishing in 2025.
In other news, the Pope opens a holy door at prison in Italy, and the surprising links between what you eat and how you sleep.
Dungeons, Dragons, Demons, and Grand Theft Auto 6, the games to look out for in 2025.
And it's National Fruitcake Day. So if you like fruitcake, it's your day. If you don't like fruitcake, what's wrong with you? Fruitcake is awesome. December 27th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
I think it's the last day of December. Yeah. It's the last Friday of December.
Four more.
The last Friday of December. Right. Sorry, I meant to say Friday, not
Best Friday of the year.
Yeah, so last Friday of the year. So make it a good one. We're going to start out the stories with a little look at declines in emissions in France, but also declines in efforts to lower those emissions, according to this article on Liberation, written by Julie Renson-Miquel. The organization mandated to carry out the country's carbon footprint revealed this Friday, so today, the 27th, that the reduction in GHG emissions is continuing with a negative 2.4% over the first three quarters of 2024. On the other hand, this is less significant than the 2023 negative 6% over the same period, and it's below the French climate objectives. In the third quarter, emissions were even slightly up by 0.5%. Oh no, they increased by 0.5. Not good. At a time when the planet is experiencing the hottest year ever observed and populations around the world are suffering from increasingly devastating climate events, the decline in greenhouse gases GHG emissions is slowing down in France, according to estimates by CETEPA, or CETEPA, however you want to say that. CETEPA. The organization mandated by the state to carry out the annual inventory of countries' GHG emissions is publishing today on December 27th an interim report on the first 9 months of 2024. Over this period, the decline in GHG emissions is negative 2.4%, excluding carbon sinks, compared to the first three quarters of the previous year. For comparison, over the first 9 months of 2023 compared to those of 2022, the decrease was negative 6%. So they're not saying the total decrease is negative 6. They're saying how much they've added to that total decrease is negative 6. So from 2023 to 2020, or from 2022 to 2023, the difference in the decline was they added another 6% more decline. But this year they only added negative 2 to that decline. So at a total that would be, probably like they've done let's say they've done negative 12 since 2021 or something.
It's a lot of numbers, man.
Yeah, a lot of numbers. Fortunately, the slowdown still leaves us on the right trajectory, reacted Minister of Ecological Transition Agnes Pannier-Runacher on RTL Radio this morning. Given the efforts we have made over the last 2 years, we are not falling behind on the objective of reducing France's emissions by 55% by 2030. But be careful, there's some This reminds us that we must not let our guard down. More than a warning, these results must be a real electroshock for the new government so that it gives back both regulatory and financial means to the ecological transition, writes on social network Blue Sky Anne Bringalt, director of the programs of the NGO Federation Réseau Action Climate. The stop-and-go policies on the ecological transition, such as the postponement of obligations to renovate energy sieves and the reduction in public support for electric vehicles renovation or the Green Fund, unfortunately have very concrete effects on France's GHG emissions. If the first half of 2024 sees a reduction in GHG emissions in all major sectors, electricity production in the lead, followed by buildings, industry, and transport, the third quarter is therefore marked by a break. On the one hand, the downward trend is the energy industry continues, with negative 12% compared to the same quarter in 2023, driven in particular, according to authors, by the reduced use of fossil fuels in electricity production. But buildings and the transport sector are lagging behind. So the electricity production industry is still quelling its use of greenhouse gases, but not the buildings and transport sector. There's been an increase of emissions by 1.1, particularly in July. I guess it was very hot. Because of climate change, it's very hot, so people turn their ACs on, maybe. I don't know. Companies buy half as much electric cars as households, and so they are not playing the game. We will have to push them to play the game, says Agnes Panier-Rontier. CO2 from the building sector exploded during the third quarter at plus 11%. The explanation is to be found in the increase in emissions associated with the heating of residential and tertiary buildings. In September, explains the author of SITPA report. SITPA. This year, we are seeing an increase in the installation of gas boilers, which is not good news, and an increase in the use of fuel oil, added the minister. In addition to the absence of data from the fourth quarter of 2024, because it hasn't really finished yet, emissions from certain subsectors are not estimated for the first three halves, such as of those from agriculture, waste, fluorinated gases, and the very significant carbon sink. Indeed, the emission estimated here are the gross CO2e emissions, or CO2 equivalent, a measure used to compare emissions of various greenhouse gases caused by human activities and do not take into account the amount of carbon naturally absorbed by forests and soils. However, the carbon sink has shrunk in recent years under the combined effects of repeated droughts, disease affecting the mortality rate of trees, and an increase in wood harvests. The country must stay on course of its public action if it wants to limit as quickly as possible the ongoing worsening of the consequences and other cascading risks of climate change, wrote the members of the HCC a few months ago. While they welcomed at the time the significant progress that has made possible the record of a 5.8 reduction in gross emissions last year, the researchers already pointed out that the alignment of existing policies was considered insufficient to respect the trajectory of carbon neutrality by 2050. So that is what's going on in France. They need to keep on it, and I'm sure they're mostly focusing on the industry stuffs because that's something they can actually regulate. You can't really regulate, hey, I mean, you can tell people don't turn your heaters on during the winter, but you can't really regulate it, you know? What are you gonna do, fine 10,000 people? I guess you can if you have the resources. It's way easier to find one company for not following your regulation than 10,000 households. On more, I guess, European news, let's talk about dissolving the government in Germany. We've already talked about them doing this, but this is just a little update. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has asked the head of state Frank-Walter Steinmeier to dissolve the parliament after losing the vote of confidence. The next step for the early federal election next year are now set for the 23rd of February. The the leaders of the SPD and the union factions had already agreed on this date. The time frame is set by basic law. According to Article 68, the federal president can dissolve the Bundestag within 21 days of the suggestion of the federal chancellor if the latter loses the vote of confidence. Article 39 stipulates the new elections must then take place within 60 days. Not, if it's over 60 days, you have broken the law. Steinmeier did not make full use of his time. Chancellor Scholz lost the vote of confidence in December 16th after his traffic light coalition of the SPD and Greens and FDP collapsed, in which now they have a broken coalition, so they can't pass any laws because they have a minority government. Before making his decision, the federal president had initially held talks with the leaders of parliamentary groups and factions. He had not been able to identify any new majorities in the talks, said Steinmeier. That is why I'm convinced that the new elections are now the right way forward for the good of our country. It's rare for the Bundestag to be dissolved prematurely, but it's not a new development in the history of the Federal Republic. Scholz's vote of confidence was only the sixth since 1949. In 3 cases, the electoral term subsequently ended prematurely. This affected Chancellors Willy Brandt, SPD, in 1972, Helmut Kohl in the CDU in 1982, and Gerhard Schröder in SPD 2005. For the upcoming election campaign, he hopes that the strength of German democracy will be visible. There are many problems to be solved, said Steinmeier, referring to the difficult economic situation, migration policy, and the war in the Middle East in Ukraine. It is now time for problem solving to become the core business of politics again, said Steinmeier. The debate about the best solution can be conducted with sharpness and incision, said Steinmeier. Our free democracy can tolerate this, or even more, it needs competition of ideas, said the federal president. However, the competition must be conducted with respect and decency. He also expects that only fair and transparent means will be used. So there you go. External influence is a threat to democracy. The federal president had referred to the social network Twitter, on which influence has recently been exerted openly and blatantly. Steinmeier's statements can be understood as a reaction to statements by Twitter's boss and tech billionaire Elon Musk, the confidant of designated U.S. President Donald Trump, who recently recommended voting for the AfD on Twitter and shared a video by right-wing extremist German influencer. This dude just pulling all his card with all his money, and Steinmeier is calling to fight against it. We need everyone to go vote on the 23rd of February. You will be deciding the future of Germany. Let's protect and strengthen our democracy. So that is what the plan is for February 23rd. So I'm sure we'll talk about that when the election comes up. On to your story. Or stories, even. Also, hello, Ivanka.
Hello everybody. Hello. Welcome to our regular viewers. Okay. We're going to go to the story reported on the other day, the plane crash in Azerbaijan, which we've probably already over-reported on. Let's do it again. This is from BusinessInsider.com. Russian air defense likely caused passenger jet crash that killed dozens. Writers are Joshua Nelkin Zitzer, Kit Gillette, and Lloyd Lee. Russia, a preliminary investigation pointing to Russia air defenses as a cause of the Azerbaijan Airlines crash in Kazakhstan on Wednesday, Azerbaijani sources said. Russia's Civil Aviation Authority quickly pointed to a bird strike as a possible cause of the crash landing, which killed 38 of the 67 people on board, including both pilots. Terrible. Aviation experts have been skeptical of Russia government's bird crash explanation due to the plane's erratic course and the holes in the plane's fuselage. Yeah, birds do not put holes in the fuselage. They'll just go splat, and that will be it. Yeah.
Unless it's a bunch of birds.
Azerbaijani sources
but still.
Yeah, a bunch of birds with anti-aircraft guns. Yeah.
That's
Azerbaijani sources confirmed that the investigation found an air defense missile fired by Russian Panzer S struck the Azerbaijani aircraft. The New York Times and the Euronews network reported Thursday. Ukraine was quick to put the blame on Russia. Well, there you go. On Wednesday, Andrea Kovalenko, the head of the Ukraine Center for Countering Disinformation, said in an X post that the plane was shot down by a Russian air defense system. Others have also suggested that Russian air defense has likely played a role as images of the crash in the plane's flight track emerged. Osprey Flight Solutions, which is hard to say, An aviation security forum said the critical alert sent to its clients and shared with Business Insider that the flight was likely shot down by a Russian military air defense system of unspecified type variant over the North Caucasus Federal District. The firm cited video of the wreckage, Ukraine's official statement, and the circumstances around the airspace security environment in southwest Russia. It's also said that the incidents of civilian airliners being misidentified and shot down by air defense systems are not unprecedented in this region. It pointed to examples such as Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, which crashed in eastern Ukraine in 2014 after reportedly being hit by a Russian-made missile. Matthew Borre, Osprey's chief intelligence officer, told BI, which is Business Insider, told Business Insider that the firm was in the process of raising its risk ratings for that portion of Russian airspace to the highest level. Well, do it fast. Why does it take a process? We have the portion of Russian airspace within 300 kilometers of the Ukrainian border. We have at extreme will be expanding that out to about 600 kilometers from the Russian border now, he said, equivalent to 373 miles. This is poorly written. It took 3 people to write this, and they came up with a sentence like that. All right. Azerbaijan Airlines flight was en route to Grozny, which Ukrainian drones have targeted in recent attacks. The governor of Russian region in North Ossetia said in a Telegram post that there were Ukrainian drone attacks carried out on Wednesday in a number of regions of North Caucasus and federal districts, which includes Grozny and the surrounding area. Yeah, but they didn't take down a jet line. They didn't take down a passenger plane. Is that what you're saying, Russia? Is that what you're telling us? No, they're just saying it. I don't know. The governor post specifically mentioned a drone being taken down in Vladikavkaz, which is about 70 miles away from Grozny. The governor, which I'm talking about, this Russian region of Ossetia. Sources familiar with Azerbaijan's investigation into the crash told the Wall Street Journal that Russia directed the Embraer-made aircraft from its airspace and jammed the GPS system. Flight Radar 24, a live tracking website, said in a post on social media that the plane was exposed to GPS jamming and spoofing near Grozny. Spoofing is kind of the same thing. Spoofing is when you pretend you're a satellite, right? I'm a satellite over here, and you send GPS to somebody's receiver, right? And it thinks you're a satellite. It throws you way off course.
That's just funny to think.
Oliver Alexander.
Like, just imagine some guy screaming, "Hey, me! Look over here!"
I'm a satellite. No, that's what.
It's just funny to think out like a man screaming.
That's what your GPS receivers. Right.
That's all.
Yeah, I got you. That's how spoofing works. That's what spoofing is. Yeah. As a matter of fact, well, here's a side note: spoofing until the late '90s when Bill Clinton unscrambled GPS. Yep. Spoofing is what the military did to all the GPS satellites. Oh. So if you had a GPS before then, you were 100 meters off every time.
All the time, yeah.
In which direction? You don't, all the time. Unless you had encrypted GPS, you were 100 meters off all the time. And you didn't know in which direction you were off either. So you could be, way off your target, right? Oliver Alexander, an independent of OSIN analyst, told BI that all the evidence I have seen points to the aircraft being hit by shrapnel from air defense missile, which severely damaged the elevator and rudder controls. In a thread on social media, which cited post-crash footage, he wrote that every single piece of debris that hit the aircraft had enough kinetic to punch through the skin and not just dent it. I think he means kinetic energy. Editors, hello. Alexander, who also dismissed the preliminary information from Russia's Civil Aviation Authority, Rosaviastia, that's how you say that, which suggested that the plane diverted after a bird strike, causing an onboard emergency. Oh yeah, bird strike. He told BA that a bird strike would produce a lot of blood and a lot of denting, neither of which seemed apparent in footage and images from the crash site. The location of the damage is all focused around the tail section, which would be very likely for a bird strike.
Okay.
Sobkol him off. One of the surviving passengers told RT, the Russian state-owned news network, that he had heard an explosion in the tail of the aircraft. That's not something a bird will cause. He also told the TASS state news agency that he's seen the plane make 3 attempts to land the plane in Grozny. Russia had cautioned against drawing conclusions. Well, I will draw conclusions. On Thursday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, it said it would be wrong to put forward any hypothesis until the investigation into the crash is concluded. We, of course, will not do this, and no one should do this, he added, per translation by the BBC. Azerbaijan Airlines President Samir Zayev told reporters Wednesday that the plane's black box had been recovered and its analysis was being conducted in line with international aviation standards. The country's president, Ilham Aliyev, said in a statement that there are videos of the crash online. The cause was still unknown. However, on Thursday, unnamed Azerbaijani government sources told Euronews that a parliamentary investigation had found that a Russian surface-to-air missile caused the crash. According to Euronews, the sources said the shrapnel from the missile hit the plane after it exploded during drone activity above Grozny. The sources said that shrapnel from the missile hit the plane after it exploded during one drone activity above Grozny. After it exploded? That makes no sense. Azerbaijan Foreign Affairs Department did not immediately respond to the request for comment from Business Insider, and the editor of this article cannot be reached for not doing his job, because there's several sentences I don't understand. Maybe it was translated poorly, I'm not sure. But there's your story. Want to give a shout out to the pilots who, although they died, saved a lot of lives. They landed safely when they knew they had, right? So those guys really are probably responsible, very responsible for a good portion of the plane still being intact and all of those survivors. So hats off to them. They did their job. Unheralded, they should build a monument to them. Build a monument to these pilots. They saved lives. Okay. Our next story is a quick one. It's a good story, I guess. It's the Pope. The Pope. This is from Newser.com. Pope opens holy door to prison in Italy. Pope Francis made a symbolic gesture in one of Italy's largest prisons on Thursday. That is the first for any pontiff, reports The Guardian.
Wow.
Francis visited Rabibia prison outside Rome, where he opened what the church calls a holy door. Yeah, that's right, the holy door. It's a door with a hole in it. No, I'm just kidding. During the year, Francis will open 5 such doors. They are typically sealed shut the rest of the time as part of the church Jubilee year, marked every 25 years. He opened another door on Christmas Eve in a more traditional locale, St. Peter's Basilica, allowing the faithful to stream into the basilica. Thursday was the first time any pope has opened such a door at a prison. I wanted the second holy door I opened to be here in prison, he said the Pope, per the Associated Press. I wanted each of us here, inside and out, to have the possibility of throwing open the door, our hearts, and understanding that hope doesn't disappoint. The outlet notes that Francis plans to put an emphasis on well-being of prisoners throughout the year. Hold on to the rope of hope. Hold on to the anchor, he said in a prison sermon. Never let it go. So, good old Pope doing good stuff for prisoners who, let's face it, have very little hope in their lives. All they have is 4 walls. Back to you.
Really nice. I mean, an actual Christian thing to do, saying that these people, they're not evil forever. They're not even evil, probably.
We are.
Yeah.
If everybody, what the old saying, we don't win until we all win, or we are the lowest of our society. Until we bring them up, we cannot succeed, because we're always going to be, in fact, the ignorant people in this country, the ignorant people, not the people in prison, the people that are in prison in their mind, the ignorant people who refuse to understand, that don't know what knowledge is, other than, please tell me how to think. Those people are dangerous because they're scared of actual knowledge that conflicts with what they've been told their entire life.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you gotta free. Those are the people that are in prison. They don't know they're in prison, but they are. Sorry to get deep and philosophical on you, but that's...
It's Friday.
Actually,
Friday
I'm not sorry. I'm not
philosophical.
sorry at all. I'm not sorry at all because I work daily and try to free my mind from stupid shit.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work.
That's not true. And it's easy. It's really difficult to be told that you're really been wrong for your entire life. It's hard to take. Anyway.
Let's go on to our next stories, which is about water. A lot of water is happening, like a undersea cable.
I'll be sending you.
Sorry?
Just to interrupt, I'll be sending you a video in a second. So
Okay.
I'm sending you a video in a second. Yes.
Okay. So, tanker from Russia's shadow fleet is suspected over the Finland-Estonia link failure. This is from Helsinki Times. Is it by anybody? I don't think it's written by anyone. I don't see any person's name. So, it's not written by anyone. A damaged cable has been confirmed as the cause of a failure detected in Est-Link 2, an electricity transmission leak between Finland and Estonia on Wednesday, reported YLE and Helsingin Sanomat. Finnish authorities revealed yesterday at a news conference that the damage is believed to have been caused by an Eagle S, a Cook Islands flagged oil tanker that is understood to be part of the so-called shadow fleet of Russia. Markku Haseninen, a deputy director at the Finnish border guard, revealed to reporters that the oil tanker caught the attention of an offshore patrol vessel because its anchors were not stowed. The National Bureau of Investigation, KRP, is investigating the incident as aggravated criminal mischief, according to Robin Lardot, the director of the KRP. He did not comment on whether the damage could have been caused accidentally. Repairing the damage is estimated to take months. Investigators have already interrogated crew on the tanker. Sami Paila, the detective chief inspector in charge of the pre-trial investigation, declined to comment on whether the crew have admitted to criminal wrongdoing. The team will comb through not only the oil tanker but also the seabed. No timeline for pre-trial investigation to be concluded was offered. Finnish Customs, meanwhile, has opened a provisional inquiry into a suspected aggravated regulation offense due to the tanker purportedly being a part of the shadow fleet of Russia. The country has used the shadow fleet to transport its embargoed oil products and circumvent the price cap on oil. That's true, they are oil tankers, so they're probably smuggling oil. European companies are prohibited from providing insurance and allowing port access to members of the fleet, reminded Sami Roksheet, Director General of Finnish Customs. Eagle S has previously operated primarily in the waters of India and Turkey, so why the hell is it in the North Sea? At the time of the failure and transmission leak, it was transporting approximately 35,000 tons of unleaded petrol. But to where? What's the manifest say? Confusing. The Finnish Transport and Communication Agency, Traficom, that was yesterday notified of damage to 3 data cables, 2 cables owned by Elisa between Finland and Estonia, and one owned by Cinia between Finland and Germany. Disruptions were detected also in another data connection between Finland and Estonia. The disruptions were not expected to cause major problems, but slower connectivity is a possibility, the agency viewed. Jarkko Sarimäki, the director of Traficom, on Thursday, or the 26th of December, said that a vessel had set sail from a French port to repair the cable between Finland and Germany. The Elisa cables, in turn, will be repaired by a vessel dispatched from Finland. The Finnish telecommunications company said the repair should take, at most, weeks. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo, NCP, on the 26th of December, yesterday, assured a later press conference that the damage will not undermine data communications or energy security in Finland. Estonia, he added, is more affected by the issue. Minister of Climate and Environment Kai Miankainen, NCP, similarly stated that the damage does not currently pose a threat to national secure electricity systems. It is unlikely that there will be a notable impact on electricity prices in the coming days. Oh, this was from Alexei Telavainen. So it's at the end of the article who reported the news story here. So there's your news coming from Finland, because this is a Finnish newspaper, I guess, or the Times, the Helsinki Times. News from Finland! And for more water, let's look at the other side of the North Sea, to Scotland. That's right. Governments in the EU, this is from Craig Williams on the Herald Scotland. Governments in the EU, UK, and Scotland risk crushing Scottish fishing in 2025 unless they radically rethink their approach towards the sector, an industry chief has warned. In a New Year message to ministers and civil servants across the UK and beyond, Elspeth MacDonald, the chief executive of the Scottish Fishermen's Federation, said a widespread sense of crisis had spawned a bout of initiative itis by the Scottish and UK governments, which combined with the apparent determination of the EU to have it all in a new fisheries access agreement for the UK waters, threatens to put the livelihoods of hundreds of skippers and crew in jeopardy. You know what else did that? Brexit. Brexit probably did that. Miss MacDonald highlighted two key issues for the fleet, which 2025 will bring into sharper focus. The impact of the planned colossal growth of floating offshore wind power in Scottish waters, and the UK government's ambitions to reset relationships with the EU as the end of fishery adjustment period in mid-2026 moves closer. Okay, so building, I think, these wind turbines will probably disrupt fisheries. That makes sense. But I think once that settles, you can have entire kind of coral reefs built on these wind turbines that could possibly increase fishing. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Somebody should do a study on this. Does having wind turbines increase the gathering rate of fish, kind of like a man-made coral reef, so to say. She said, "We understand the need for energy transitions. All of our futures depend on shifting from an energy system based on fossil fuels to one that has less impact on global climate. But the wind rush, the planned expansion of offshore wind in our seas, floating offshore wind in particular, going ever further and faster, is not proving to be a just transition for our fishing industry. At present, there are no proposals on the table to compensate our industry for the losses we will suffer, which are increasingly recognized by floating offshore wind developers as being significant. Our long-standing industry must not be a casualty of this new one. We call on government to step up their responsibilities and live up to their commitments of a just transition. Hollow words are not enough." Ms. MacDonald will also clear any agri-food or veterinary agreement that might be reached with the EU and would benefit both parties should not come at the price of long-term fisheries access deal that would only benefit the EU. Looking ahead to 2025, she said there will be much activity on domestic policies, including further development of Scotland's new National Marine Plan, implementation of the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy and delivery plans, developing the future of inshore fisheries management, and fishery management measures in the marine protected areas. A spokesperson for the Scottish Government said, We fully understand the need to balance the growth of the offshore renewable sector with continued investment in Scotland's fisheries, seafood and wider marine sectors and the communities and jobs which they rely on them. We will need to make the right choices about how we develop and use Scotland's marine space sustainability. We will continue to engage closely with fishing industries as key partners in developing those plans." All right, well, there's your news coming from Scotland and the water, the North Sea. A cable is being repaired shortly, but Russia is being suspicious yet again.
Putting up to no good.
Yep. Why is an oil tanker from Turkey and India in the North Sea? That's suspicious. Completely.
Yeah, nothing suspicious about that. Yeah. Nothing suspicious about birds knocking a plane out of the air either, right? Oh, it was birds. Maybe the birds did this too, right? I bet you it was birds. Undersea birds. They're known as notorious undersea deep sea diving birds. Very rarely seen. We must protect the endangered deep sea diving birds. Is it my story? All right. So I will get on with my story, which is the surprising links between what you eat and how well you sleep. This is from getpocket.com. While eating is one of your holiday festivities, overeating, obviously, is another one. Over drinking too, but we're going to talk about eating. And we're going to, a little bit of a long story. Let's get into it. Tanya Whalen finds it impossible to get enough sleep between her shifts, working early mornings and nights as a fire brigade dispatcher in Melbourne, Australia. So to help her power through the long night of answering emergency calls and sending out crews, she would often take snack store. It might be a muffin or some biscuits that you could eat in a break just because you felt peckish, or to lift your energy a bit. I say this as an Australian accent, but I got to work on my accents, man. Tanya was also regular at the fire station vending machine, buying crisps, which is hard to say, and chocolate most night shifts. It was a diet she knew wasn't doing her much good, and she was piling on the pounds, and yet it was difficult to resist. And Tanya's behavior is not unusual. When people haven't had enough rest, they crave food. Some rather fiendish changes unfold when your brain and your body, when sleep gets short, and set you on a path towards overeating and also weight gain, says Professor Matthew Walker, director of the Center for Human Sleep Science at the University of California. When we're awake for longer, we do need more energy, but not that much. Sleep is a surprisingly active process, and our brains and bodies are working quite hard, Professor Walker says. Despite that, when deprived of sleep, we tend to overeat by more than twice or 3 times the amount of calories we need. That's because sleep affects 2 appetite-controlling hormones, leptin and ghrelin. This was spelled Ghrelin. Leptin will signal your brain that you've had enough to eat. When leptin levels are high, our appetite is reduced. Ghrelin does the opposite. When ghrelin levels are high, you don't feel satisfied by the food you ate. In experiments, it has been shown that when people are deprived of sleep, these 2 hormones go in opposite directions. There's a marked drop in leptin, which meant an increase in appetite, where ghrelin rockets up, leaving people unsatisfied. It's like double jeopardy, Professor Walker says. You're getting punished twice for the same offense of not getting sufficient sleep. Why might this be happening? Professor Walker thinks there is an evolutionary explanation. Animals rarely deprive themselves of sleep unless they are starving and they need to stay awake to forage for food. So when we don't have sufficient sleep from an evolutionary perspective, our brain thinks that we may be in a state of starvation and will increase our food cravings to drive us to eat more. And not having enough sleep doesn't only affect how much we eat, but also what we eat. A small study carried out by Professor Walker showed that participants were more likely to crave sugary, salty, and carbohydrate-heavy foods when they were sleep deprived. None of which is good for us. Good news for the tired night shift workers like Tanya Whalen. In fact, the situation may be even worse for them, since it's not just what they're eating that is the problem, but when they're eating it too. Our bodies are primed to follow a regular 24-hour rhythm, says Dr. Maxine Bonham, an associate professor of nutrition, dietetics, and food at Monash University in Melbourne. We expect to work and eat and exercise during the day, and we expect to sleep at night, and our body is geared to do that. So when you work a night shift, you're doing everything in opposition to what your body's expecting. And that means we struggle to process food when we eat nighttime meals. Eating at night can lead to higher glucose levels and more fatty substances in the blood, and the body is less able to break down and metabolize nutrients in the small hours, says Dr. Bonham. Shift workers are known to be more at risk of weight gain, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Shift workers. Yep, you're trying to stay up all night and you're filling your body full of junk. That's what your problem is. To put it plainly. People who work at night are also more likely to be overweight. They may eat out of boredom or just to stay awake, or they may not be anything healthy for them to eat, just a vending machine or takeaway food. Takeaway food. I love Australians and their way they call things stuff. We call it takeout. They call it takeaway.
Steal away. This is my food now.
This is my takeaway. All this has inspired Dr. Bonham and her colleagues to set up an experiment to see if they can help people who work night shifts lose excess weight and improve their overall health. They've recruited some 220 shift workers who want to lose weight and have been putting them on a variety of diets for a 6-month period. Tanya Whalen, we keep telling her entire first name, her entire name for some reason. We could say Ms. Whalen, we could say Tanya, but we keep name checking her entire name. Tanya Whalen, the fire brigade dispatcher, signed up to follow a fasting program for 2 days each week. She had to consume just 600 calories in 24 hours. It was tough, Tanya said. I was quite worried I wouldn't be able to do it. Some weeks it felt like a 12-hour shift took 20 hours. A 12-hour shift? And nobody should work 12-hour shifts. That's just cruelty. Sorry. Especially you're a dispatcher. You're just looking at a freaking screen all day. But she stuck with it, distracting herself by reading, playing games, going for walks, and drinking gallons of peppermint tea.
Wow, I'm jealous.
Yet, but yeah, peppermint tea, good for your gut. Good for your gut. Good for that.
I love peppermint tea, man.
For whatever reason. Yeah. We used to give our babies, when you guys were babies, we gave you mint tea to settle your stomachs. And it works. The study results are not in, but Tanya feels like it's been a positive experience that's promoted her to make other changes. For example, she now walks 5 kilometers per day. Well, there's a change, right? Walking 5 kilometers per day is no small thing. I certainly have more energy and more desire to move. I have lost a considerable amount of weight. Go for a walk after you eat. That's basically what you need to do. Just go for a walk. Walk for 10 minutes, walk 5 minutes one direction, turn on, come back. You'll feel great, and you'll burn off all that unnecessary calories you don't need. Anyway, interestingly, Tanya thinks it has helped her sleep better too. Even in the limited hours that I get, I don't toss and turn as much as I've stopped snoring mostly, so my husband tells me. It's not clear whether this improvement is down to the new diet, the exercise, the weight loss, or something else entirely, but it does raise the question of whether your eating can affect how you're sleeping. Until now, we've been talking about how sleep or lack of it can affect what you eat. But what if you can eat your way to a good night's sleep? Dr. Marie-Pierre Saint-Onge, Dr. Marie-Pierre Saint-Onge, that's her name, is a nutrition and sleep researcher in New York. She spent years studying the impact of insufficient sleep on diet. In 2015, she was contacted by the committee drawing up the dietary guidelines for Americans. Should they be advising people what to eat to improve their sleep, they asked. My first reaction was, why didn't I think of that? Melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep and which rises in the evening, comes from a dietary amino acid called tryptophan. So if the hormone that regulates your sleep is produced entirely from an amino acid that must be consumed in the diet, that makes sense that the diet would be important in regulating sleep, she said. And yet, Dr. Saint-Onge couldn't find any studies focusing on the relationship. So she and her team began looking into research into other health matters, which had recorded patients' sleep and dietary habits. Examining that data, a clear pattern emerges, she said. Individuals who followed a Mediterranean-style diet, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, fish and whole grains, had a 35% lower risk of insomnia than those who didn't, and were 1.4 times more likely to have a good night's sleep. So what's so sleep-inducing about that diet? Foods such as fish, nuts, and seeds are high in melatonin-producing tryptophan, and a number of small studies have shown that some specific foods such as tomatoes, tart cherries, and kiwi fruit, which contain melatonin, may help people fall asleep more easily and stay asleep for longer. So I'm going to make me some more kiwi fruit today.
I love kiwi. I love eating the entire kiwi, like the skin too.
Right.
That's where all the nutrients
not the
are.
Kiwi bird. Yeah. There are also foods to avoid before bed. Most people know about caffeine, which is a stimulant, but perhaps they don't realize that salty foods can make you thirsty, which can disturb your sleep. Dr. Saint-Onge's study also suggests that eating sugary foods may lead to a more disturbed night. Her team is looking into why that may be. Studies examining the influence of food on sleep are still few in number and small in size. So Dr. Saint-Onge says little can be taken as scientific fact. However, they do raise the possibility that eating certain foods can lead to better sleep. Yes, So there's your quick information on eating and sleeping. Necessarily don't go together.
Some people need directions of both those things, you know. They need help.
I think it's more. Yeah, I don't think people intentionally want to eat before bed. It's just something in your brain. It's like, I'm hungry right now. I better eat something. But eat something like an apple, something that's light, maybe some fiber that your body isn't trying to digest.
As far as what I know from what scientists say is that the reason you get hungry right before you sleep is because your body is telling you, oh shit, you're running out of energy. Go eat something. That way, because sleeping, yeah, exactly. And sleeping is and especially in apex predators, is what you do after you've run out of food. You're just like, time to save some energy. Mm-hmm. Time to go to sleep. You know?
And eating out of boredom, it also happens in a lot of these places. So it's a sedentary job. If you got a sedentary job and you're eating a lot of time, you're probably not going to sleep healthy at all because you're consuming calories you don't need. Anyway, that's your story. Back to you for your culture segment.
Okay. From eating and sleeping, let's go to things not to sleep on this 2025. That's right. It's look out for these video games from Keza McDonald on The Guardian. Vice City returns, but there are plenty of new games and reboots from Monster Hunter Wilds to Atomfall to Civilization 7 and Doom: The Dark Ages. Civilization 7, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. The rules of Civilization haven't changed, but this devilishly compelling strategy series has long been due an overhaul. Yeah, it's been over 10 years since the sixth game. Next year's installment lets you pick and choose between many more different leaders and peoples to guide the world domination, from antiquity and through the ages of exploration to the modern era, peacefully or otherwise. I think all our politicians need to play Civilization, and so they can keep their business out of normal people's problems. You want to go conquer the world? Play Civilization. The whole world is holding its breath for Rockstar's latest, the first GTA game to star a woman, Lucia, alongside her partner in crime. It is set in the wild Floridian environs of Vice City, the series version of Miami. Given the GTA 5 has grossed $8.5 billion over its lifetime, this will inevitably be a megaton of a game. Lost Wreckers, Bloom and Rage. A game about a group of team band friends drawn together after 27 years when one of them discovers a secret they shouldn't know about. From the original creators of coming-of-the-age classic Life is Strange, this beautiful-looking narrative game will flit between the magical summer of 1995 and the present day. Monster Hunter Wilds. Japanese developer Capcom has been on an incredible run this decade, from a brilliant new Street Fighter to its revitalization of Resident Evil, to this, an awe-inspiringly expansive new entry in its dragon-slaying action series. More like monster slaying, it's not just dragons. The creatures are imposing, the weapons gloriously huge and improbable, and the environments lashed with lightning and blooming with natural diversity. Atomfall. Fans of The Last of Us and Fallout may perk up at the sight of the strangely cozy Lake District version of the post-apocalypse from British developer Rebellion. In this alternate timeline, the 1957 fire at the Windscale nuclear reactor had plunged Britain into a new age of desperate survival. There are puppy references here, from Doctor Who to Quartermass. Sorry, pulpy, not puppy. There are pulpy references here, from Doctor Who to Quartermass. Doom! The Dark Ages. The venerable first-person shooter goes even more metal next year, with gothic castles and sci-fi dragons and a shield that's also a chainsaw, and of course, Thor flying everywhere from hordes of demons. I'm not sure I can improvise its developer's description of the game. You are all the super weapon in a medieval war against hell! That's the plot of Doom, by the way. You fight demons from hell, like literally from hell. Yeah. Metroid Prime 4. Destined, surely, for the yet-to-be-revealed successor to Nintendo's incredibly successful Switch console, this space adventure has been in the works for around 10 years. The first 3 Metroid Prime games are standard-setting science fiction masterpieces, so we're all hoping for something similarly revolutionary. This time around from Retro Studios and iconic characters Samus Aran. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. These games about colorful Japanese gangsters usually alternate between somber self-seriousness and total ridiculousness. But here, Sega is fully embracing its silly side by recasting flamboyant eye-patch-wearing villain Goro Majima as an amnesiac pirate on the high seas. An extravagant nautical action-adventure with naval combat, stylish sword-wielding, and treasure hunting, and a much-needed dose of absurdity. Fable. Featuring Richard Ayoade and Matt King, Super Hands from Peep Show, this comic fantasy adventure has the unbelievable job of resuscitating a beloved series that has lain dormant for a long time. I thought the Fable series was dead, forever, never to return. But what we've seen so far happily suggests that it perseveres, the sense of humor and British sensibilities that have always made Fable unique. You probably know Fable just a little bit. Melanie, you loved playing Fable on her Xbox. I don't know if you ever caught her playing that. Player Obscure Expedition 33, a French dark fantasy game with a fascinating premise. Each year, a mysterious supernatural painter daubs a number on a tower. In a torn apart simulacrum of Paris, and everyone of that age vanishes Thanos style into ash. You play the latest team of explorers sent out into the twisted wilds to try to stop it. A wondrous looking game whose elaborate environments are frozen mid-destruction. So there you go. There's your games and names to look forward to this 2025. Let us know down below if you're a gamer and if you're going to play any of these games. I'm definitely going to be looking at that Fable series because I've been waiting. What I really am waiting for, though, is Fable 2 to actually be released on PC, because it's still stuck in the doom of Xbox 360, which I don't own one. So, Adam Falls looks really interesting. I like immersive games, but there you go. Make sure to put those games on your list for 2025. And on to this day in history.
Yeah, this day in history. This day in history, which was December 27th, we go back to the year 1512, where Ferdinand II issued the laws of Burgos to regulate the relations between Spaniards and Indians in Spain's American colony. Ooh, they made rules. Hey, here's how we're going to kill the Indians this time. Whatever. All right. 1571, of course, 1512 was fairly new, right?
Yeah.
Because Columbus only did 1492. It was only 20 years after Columbus, so I'm sure the Spaniards are busy just trying to, hey, you're going to be Catholic. What? Huh?
That's news to me.
I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. Well, anyway. 1571, German astronomer Johannes Kepler, who discovered the three major laws of motion, was born. So happy birthday to Kepler and his laws of motion. 1801, after conquering Italy, Napoleon established the Republic of Lucca. And in the year 1831, Charles Darwin set sail on his HMS Beagle, beginning the voyage on which he would formulate his theory of evolution, which he probably ended up in the Galapagos Islands, and started watching birds. Good old Darwin. 1901, German-American film actress Marlene Dietrich was born. Her beauty, voice, aura of sophistication, and languid sensuality made her one of the world's most glamorous movie stars. Oh boy. In 1932, the internal passport system, previously denounced by Vladimir Lenin as one of the world's worst stigmas of the Tsarist backwardness and despotism, was reinstated by Joseph Stalin. So yeah, Lenin's like, yeah, it's the worst thing, and Stalin's like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. And in 1978, in this day, Harari Boumediene, president of Algeria, died at the age of 51. And another tragic event, in 2007, Pakistani politician Benazir Bhutto, the first woman leader of a Muslim nation in modern history, was assassinated in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, while campaigning for upcoming parliamentary elections. So shame on you, Pakistan. 2015, American painter, sculptor, and printmaker Ellsworth Kelly, who is a leading exponent of the hard edge style, in which abstract contours are sharply and precisely defined, died in Spencertown, New York. Also on this day in 2016, Carrie Fisher passed away. Princess Leia, daughter of Debbie Reynolds, famous actress Debbie Reynolds, who died the very next day. So Carrie Fisher died December 27th. Her mom died the very next day, December 28th. Our featured event, 1949, Dutch transfer of Indonesian sovereignty. On this day in 1949, 4 years after national revolutionary leader Sukarno had declared Indonesia's independence, formal sovereignty over the country was transferred from the Dutch to the United States of Indonesia, the USI. Okay, and our feature biography, Louis Pasteur. Hey, happy birthday to Louis Pasteur, born December 27th, 1822 in Dole, France. I think that's pronounced Dole or whatever. September 28th, 1895 was his day he passed away in St. Cloud, France. Louis Pasteur, of course, invented pasteurization, which is heating milk up to kill all the bacteria and then cooling it down right away. And that killed the bacteria that was killing a lot of people. So pasteurization was invented, although a bunch of people these days are like, that's terrible. And I'm like, okay, have fun. Other featured biographies or featured birthdays. George Whitefield, British clergyman, born in 1714. Mirza of Sadullah Khan Yahya, Indian poet, which I totally butchered his name, born in 1797. Louis Pasteur recovered. Marlene Dietrich recovered. Gerard Depardieu, birthday today, born in 1948. So he's turning 76 today. Happy birthday, Gerard Depardieu. But tomorrow's Denzel's birthday. Denzel Washington's turning 70 tomorrow. Denzel Washington's turning 70 tomorrow. So I was just whipping up
Happy birthday!
Weekend birthdays, right? Other birthdays. Mary Tyler Moore. Mary Tyler Moore was born on this Sunday in 1936, so she would be about 88 on that day if she was around. And our National Day calendar, we only have one day, and that's National Fruitcake Day. So not a lot to talk about there. You either like it or you don't. And if you know what fruitcake is, it's a cake with fruit in it. But not like, it's got like bits of cherries, maybe some raisins and some dates and whatever, and some, it's nuts, lots of nuts. Loaded with nuts too. It's very healthy. I don't know why people don't like it. It's quite sweet. That could be high in the hypoglycemic area, but we'll see. But those are your days. Those are everything today for December 27th, 2024 on Before Fruitcake.
Have a little fruitcake in the tin.
Fruitcake goes great with coffee, by the way. Not
any liquid, really. Adding liquid with some sort of flavor on it makes it even better, for sure.
It'll hold together. Before you dip it in the coffee, too.
Yeah, it's very dense, very dense. Well, this has been Ali from the Netherlands. It is, I believe, our final UN observance day. International Day of Epidemic Preparedness. Now, anybody who lived through the COVID pandemic and knows exactly what that means, exemplified by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, major infectious disease and epidemics have devastating impacts on human lives, wreaking havoc on long-term social and economic development. Global health crisis threatened to overwhelm already overstretched health systems. So, make sure you not only are prepared yourself for any sort of epidemic, but also push your governments to be prepared, because what happened right before COVID in the US, well, all of that preparedness was tossed away, and then nobody was ready for it at all.
Right.
And then it killed way too many people.
Trump got rid of the infection. He got rid of the pandemic task force. He totally disbanded it. Which
Yep.
he will do it again. You watch, and then you're all gonna die of bird flu this time.
So make sure
we'll probably have a report on bird flu really soon. Yeah.
And so make sure you keep that topic on government's ears, that you got to be ready for any epidemic. And this has been Allison from the Netherlands, Raj from the currently east coast of the U.S., who will be returning, I think, to the west coast soon.
Yeah, this is the last.
In a van.
This is the last time you're going to see this set, probably forever. I don't know. If
Maybe
we'll ever
until
have
next
this set
Christmas.
Design again. I don't know. I don't know
maybe
what
not.
the future holds.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm tearing this computer out of here.
Yep.
I might take me with me. I can't take Bob. It's not mine.
Okay.
Bob stays here. So no Bob Marley, but I might take me. But that poster's kind of valuable. It's autographed, so I might just leave it there because I don't want to travel with it.
Yeah, you don't want to get it lost or stolen out of your van or something. People
Plus,
are
I'll be
weird.
staying in Airbnb for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
So you'll see me in my van next time you see me. I'll be in my cross-country van
Is
somewhere in the United
hashtag
States.
van lifing right now.
hashtag using McDonald's Wi-Fi.
We'll see how well it goes.
We'll get what we get.
Yeah.
Whatever's available. The truck stop Wi-Fi.
You'll be
Truck
in
stop
for an
Wi-Fi.
entertaining
Yeah.
time, at least. That's definitely a guarantee. So
We're
don't
going to
worry
be doing
about
remotes.
that.
Maybe we'll do some man on the street interviews or something. Because I'll be a man on the street.
Yeah, you can bother
Anyway,
some. I
that's your
mean, you
stuff.
can probably do that better than me. I'm too socially awkward to like go up to somebody and say, "Hey, tell me what you think." I don't really care what other people think.
You have to have a certain amount of "I don't give a fuck" in your system, and I think
Yeah.
you get more of that as you get older.
That's good. That's
Anyway.
good. All right. So, anyways, that's that. So, hopefully everything turns out fine. And let's start our. Oh wait, yeah. Make sure you're subscribed, notified for Mucking Fun Days next episode, where it will be a chaotic mess. Unless you don't want chaotic messes, then maybe don't watch this show. Comment down below what game you're looking forward to, and if you don't
This is a chaotic mess.
comment down below what you think Russia will do next to just completely disrupt something that has nothing to do with them. And let's go to our mic drop moment.
You remember when you were just a
I
little
love
girl,
Debbie.
you wouldn't ever perform, you always shied
And,
away. And I
Isn't that my
always said,
favorite
"Sing,
Halloween
Oprah,
film?
sing,
hopefully.
because you have a great voice." But you wouldn't do it. And then we went to New York, and I did a play called Irene, and there was a song I wanted you to sing called.
This is Oprah. Hopefully Oprah doesn't block. Yes.
I didn't want
We'll
to.
see, yeah.
I didn't want to do it. You made me want you, and all the time you knew it. I guess you always knew it. You made me happy sometimes, always. You made me glad. But there were times, dear, I made you feel so bad. It's true.
That's daughters for you, isn't it?
I thought about it for 30 years. I stopped singing for 30. I finally decided to sing.
When you did
Don't forget, she was married to Paul Simon, too.
Yeah.
The skies above are clear again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together, shouting now. There's no one who can doubt it now.
She's like, I'm not gonna sing anymore. I'm just gonna watch Carrie sing. I'm just gonna watch her sing.
About it now.
She's given up on singing herself.
She didn't know the words.
Happy days are here again.
Ah, so sweet. Lost too soon.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.